In this era of the politics affecting the Jewish world, I seem to have a lot to complain about, so it is refreshing to report some good news for a change. I'm referring to the Morrison government recognising all of Hezbollah as a terrorist organisation, broadening this definition from just its military ring, which has been proscribed as such since 2003. I suppose I could ask what took them so long, as it has been perfectly obvious to us for years that there is no distinction to be made between the political and military arms of Hezbollah. But better late than never, and it is now a criminal act to be a member of, provide support or associate with Hezbollah. It will be interesting to see what happens at those periodic rallies against Israel when Hezbollah flags are seen being waved by some of the people there. And that nasty organisation, EDITORIAL, has a lot in common with Hezbollah. So what will happen with them? They don't want much, just to replace our liberal democratic government with an Islamic caliphate. The government also proscribed the Base, a tiny neo-Nazi group no one has ever heard of, and whilst there might be security intelligence on them we are not aware of, I found it interesting that this was included with the reports about Hezbollah. Could it be that the media, who always like to whitewash the ugly side of Islam, wanted to deflect attention away from Hezbollah by focusing on some neo-Nazi group that, whilst good to be rid of, are not yet a major threat? Am I being overly cynical? On this issue, we have to give credit where it is due, and I want to recognise the good work done by Senator James Paterson, the elected chair of the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security. No doubt this decision on Hezbollah was a multi-department initiative, but I'm also confident that Senator Paterson's leadership was instrumental in it finally happening. There are some talented younger politicians around the Liberal Party. Senator Alex Antic is another one. And when we speak to them about Israel, it is encouraging to see that they do have a solid understanding of the Middle East. We don't need to explain things from the beginning to them, or have to prove that the PA or Hamas actually do want to get rid of Israel, because they get it. They know the facts and they understand Israel's predicament. Yes, they may keep their cards close to their chest when we try to pin them down on, for example, the futility of the two-state solution, but that's okay. They are politicians and they have to be forever diplomatic. But we know that they know what's really going on. This ban on Hezbollah has probably been months in the making, but it is interesting to note that it happened shortly after Naftali Bennett spoke to Scott Morrison at the recent climate change conference in Glasgow. But I also noticed that Labor has been rather quiet on all this. After all, who cares about principles when you have a voter base to look after? Labor's Home Affairs spokesperson, Christina Keneally, didn't have much to say, other than question why the Australian government hasn't moved more quickly to proscribe other far-right groups. But this is a good news story. However, there is still another chapter to be written. Hamas is in exactly the same sort of position as Hezbollah, and if it is good enough to take a principled stance on one, then it should be good enough to do so for the other. Britain has already designated the entirety of Hamas as a terrorist organisation, and we understand that this has been raised for discussion at Senator Paterson's committee, and it now sits with the Home Affairs Minister, Karen Andrews. So my message to our government is this: come on guys, you've done well, but it's time to finish this part of the job. This is Alan Freedman for the Australian Jewish Association.